wanted to pop on here on this Truth Tuesday to just throw some ideas out there and see what we can learn from each other. It's one thing I know for sure. It's because we identify our lessons learned, or as I like to refer to them, our truths, so that they can help us propel forward in a bigger way. It's not about dwelling, absolutely not about dwelling on lessons learned or mistakes made. It's about really getting super clear on what, you know, um, could be an experience, right? Like identifying the fact that we prefer to work with a certain client type, whereas maybe we set out in our sales career or our entrepreneurial career and we thought, our goal was to work specifically with attorneys. Just as an example, I'm just throwing that out there. But then, however, when we get out there and we're making sales calls, we may find out that we have a lot of connection points with a different type of client. Like, let's say, you find with your technology background that you can identify more closely with chief security officers or chief information officers. Those are important factors to consider. And I find that a lot of people sacrifice their happiness and and their financial goals, their wealth goals, because they feel stuck, because maybe they haven't figured out, or they figured out that they really don't like working with one particular client type. However, they feel stuck or they feel boxed in. It's the same as, this of course applies to entrepreneurs as well. If you opened your business to help other business owners and then you decide, I really like working with coaches, because perhaps you're a coach and then you decided that you wanted to switch your niche or your target market, or maybe expand it to a different target market, a different type of client. We have to figure out where we are with it so that we can, with confidence, get to where we are seeking to go. Like the clues and the cues would be, if you don't feel satisfied, if you don't, if you just feel like something is not in alignment, or you feel something is missing, then it definitely needs to be explored, because you should not be sacrificing your happiness and your wealth goals just because you feel stuck. Now, let me just say this before we move on. Obviously, if you are, let's say you are in a W-2 position and your company only sells to a particular client type, like attorneys. Okay, well, that obviously is a bigger decision, because that would require you to, sounds like, leave that company. So you definitely have to do the checks and balances. You have to, really get super clear, find what your truth is, as far as, if you're not happy, what would you be willing to do to elevate your happiness? I just finished a course, a Harvard course on happiness. It was called Managing Happiness, and I really enjoyed it. It had a lot of research studies, a lot of great exercises by many psychologists that have been studying happiness and professors that have been studying happiness for several decades. So it was great to have all of that and their knowledge in one place. It was like a compilation of many different theories and many different practices. So our happiness is definitely important. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to, stay miserable. That doesn't mean, if that's the case, that doesn't mean that we have to give up our income earning opportunity. As a matter of fact, I think it's super important that you find something that you can give and serve in this world and monetize it, because you have intellectual property. You have teachings that you will do in your particular way, unlike anyone else. So, your teachings that would apply if you were an employee or if you were on your own as a founder of a company, building, scaling. You have your own intellectual property, and what you are seeking to do and serve with that intellectual property is something that needs to be valued. And I feel that quite often it's overlooked or sometimes sacrificed. So I'm here to tell you that you can choose to be happy and you can choose to make money and monetize. Quite often, we can find happiness if we feel something is missing in our, like, let's say, in our work life, right? We can find happiness volunteering. We can find happiness creating a passion project. So what I'm suggesting is that unless you have another source of income or you are independently wealthy, that you find an income generating opportunity that you can commit yourself to, that you can earn a living and make a life from. And if you feel that something is missing from that, then, you know, carve out a little bit of time to volunteer and create perhaps a passion project. We all know that one of the ways that we can feel wonderful is by sharing our gifts or acts of service with others on a volunteer basis. And I found that, even um, if someone is not fully satisfied, or maybe they're partially satisfied with their day's work, that just sometimes by just spending time in at the church, or volunteering with an organization, can definitely help you to feel valued. Now, this also goes if you're, in a difficult spot with work. Maybe it's your own business, and perhaps you're just, having a really difficult time balancing everything between life, at home and work. You know, dedicating, even if it's just 45 minutes or an hour to a service project, could get your mind off of things. And of course, you would be doing so good by helping others. So I'm just trying to put a few ideas out there because, you know, in in today's world, I hear of a lot of people, different points of their career, just just kind of making some harsh decisions, or, giving up too soon, saying, well, this isn't going to work. I'm not, I'm not cut out for this. Their confidence is waning, or they have a difficult boss. You know, you need to make sure that you're super clear on what is true to you. And that's really what Truth Tuesday is about. Identifying those truths, learning lessons so that we can really help ourselves move forward faster instead of dwelling, because if we are at a point of in our life where we're having struggling with times, we need to make some decisions, but we're struggling with that. We need to find something that we can make some quick decisions on. And then, hope and pray that that carries over into the other parts of our life where we are struggling. Because if we cannot teach ourselves to make quicker decisions, we will tend to dwell. We will dwell in disappointments and we will dwell in accomplishments. And quite frankly, dwelling, my parents used to call it like, don't rest on your laurels. I heard that a lot growing up. I mean, they weren't always speaking to me because I have been a very goal oriented person. Uh, and I, if I had to choose one thing, I would say that I probably didn't celebrate and honor enough of my accomplishments in the first few decades of my life. Now, I've learned to honor my accomplishments in a bigger way. I like to pat myself on my back. I encourage others to do the same. But I can tell you that it wasn't always that way. I was more like, okay, great. I ran the marathon. What's next? Okay, I hit that sales quota. What's going on next week? Or, what about next quarter? And the happiness studies that I've taken, uh, I've taken some this wonderful series at Northwestern with Deepak Chopra, and that that was based on leadership, but also had a very nice theme of happiness. I also took a course on happiness at Yale, and as I mentioned, I just finished up a course at Harvard. Uh, they all have very interwoven themes, but because I chose to really dive in and study more on happiness, what are some good practical habits, and one of the biggest takeaways that I learned from these courses is savoring the moments instead of being like, okay, check the box. Yes, I got my personal record time when I ran that race. What's next? How many minutes can I, shave off of that next time? I didn't savor the moments as much the first few decades of my life. I was always looking for the what's next instead of, wow, that's amazing, that that I was able to accomplish that. And that's super exciting that I was able to share that experience with a few colleagues. Like those are the things that I learned. And so it's never too late to learn what can help us identify our truths. When we speak of truths, I certainly needed to, really, I'd say, slow down and, celebrate those moments. I mean, of course, I was happy, and excited, but I didn't savor them enough until uh, until I learned to until I learned to do that. And uh, there's so much research out there right now, and there will continue to be so much research on you know the reasons why we want to you know really choose happiness and ways that we can really achieve that. Now, the one thing that I do want to make clear before we wrap up here is we cannot take responsibility for other people's happiness. Now, that doesn't mean that that gives us a ticket to be mean or to say whatever we want that would be hurtful. That simply means that we cannot take responsibility for other people's happiness. Everyone has to be responsible for their own happiness. I'd say that's another thing that I did in my first few decades of life. I I actually, gave away a lot of my happiness, and I actually had a lot of my happiness uh, related to others. Were others going to accept me? Those were friends, yeah, as well as people guys that I dated. And if they didn't call me when I thought they were supposed to call me, or whatever the case was, I wasn't happy. Or, if we got in a disagreement, or I'd have these expectations, like if we had been going out every Friday night or something like that, and then all of a sudden, oh, well, they had something else to do. Oh, well, then I wasn't happy. So that was my fault for allowing, for jeopardizing my happiness. So I shared that with you because that was a big truth that I learned as well. Don't give away, don't allow others to control your happiness. I mean, it was more than not being in a good mood for me. It was the fact that I allowed other people to influence and ultimately control my happiness. So I'm curious to know, what's one of your big truths? Maybe when I was sitting here telling you these stories, perhaps there were some thoughts that came to your mind that helped you to realize something that is true to you. And when I say true to you, I mean true to the core. Like, this is how you feel, this is one of your values, you know. Because when we don't honor those, or when we go against the fact of what we really want and what we really need. And it's not to say that we do have to make choices in life, of course, and we do have to balance out income earning opportunity versus being happy. But when we look at our time being the most valuable resource, we can't get our time back. So we need to make sure that we are, spending time with loved ones, that we are spending time alone as well, because that's super important. We all have to have time to think. And that, of course, we're earning money and we're smart about it too. You know, I think it's important that we build multiple revenue streams within. If we're business owners, we build multiple revenue streams. If you are an employee, if you are allowed, have a side gig, something maybe that you can sell, maybe network marketing, something that you can do in the off hours, that isn't going to, take a lot of time away. Now, those opportunities aren't the easiest to find, but having, building your wealth and making sure that, that you are set, in case, something would happen to your income earning opportunity. Or perhaps you have goals where, you're looking to fund a family vacation, or you're looking to, save for your first trip with, um, with a grandchild or with a niece or a nephew. These are all super important. And, you don't want to wake up one day and be like, oh, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have been more intentional as opposed to just going through the motions. Because, if you catch yourself just going through the motions, you're just kind of doing bare minimum. I like to refer to that as existing. I don't really even think I think that's barely surviving, so that's why I really look at that as just existing. We all want to get to the point where we are thriving, where we are, waking up each day, we're eager to do whatever it is that we're doing to, serve others, to make money, to build a future. Super important. But in order to do that, sometimes we have to slow down a little bit so that we can actually have time to think and decide, what is it? What is it going to take? What is it that is going to, make me feel fulfilled? And like I said, sometimes it may not be your position at this time. It may not be your day job. It may not be the catch all. However, you can work toward getting that complete fulfillment. I know many people that may have chosen a career, as an example, in medicine. But then I know several doctors that are actually looking to get out of the practicing medicine field and get into other positions, with pharmaceutical companies, with, functional medicine, sometimes making a complete shift into a different industry. So, and look, those physicians have spent years and years and a lot of money to get that degree. But if they realize that that is not what what they want to do for the rest of their life, or for, the next 10 or 20 years, then they're doing the right thing by navigating through where can they use their skill sets and, still earn a living for their family and be happy. So I'd love to know what your truth is. I've talked for a long time about my truths. And I don't have the video on today because I'm I'm testing this to see if the engagement is higher, lower, or about the same is when I have the video on. So I like to do this because I have clients that I coach on. Well, LinkedIn is one part of our program. So I like to stay up on what the latest trends are with the algorithm. So today I decided to keep the video off, and then I'll be able to look at the engagement and see if there was any difference. Could be higher, could be lower, or like I said, it could be the same. uh, they did it a little bit early today, so the time also plays into it. Generally, I usually do these a little bit later, usually after 6 p.m. Central Time. But today I hopped on early and really just wanted to share some of my truths with you in hopes that you would be able to take a closer look at yourself. Because, time waits for no one. That's actually one of the things I learned from a taxi driver when I first moved to the Chicago area. I will never forget that. And yeah, I'll tell you the story another time, but I was in a taxi on my way to a job interview, and uh, it just could not have been better timing, literally, for him to share his, his quote, his philosophy. And I'll never forget that because that was at a time when it just hit me like, wow, time waits for no one. So it's important that I make a wise choice, as opposed to just because actually that particular job, I was thinking about just taking it as a filler job. It really wasn't. It really wasn't my thing. I you know but I was looking for a filler job until I got back on with AT&T, because I had a little bit of a gap in between, when I moved out here, and uh, you know it was just a timing thing with with where they were going to place me. So I had some time and I wanted to earn some income, but I just there were many factors considering it. So as it worked out, I was actually able to speed up the AT&T opportunity, and I respectfully declined that one opportunity, because it would have taken my focus away from, from getting started, and it would have been temporary, which a lot of effort would have gone into that, and um, I was struggling with how to tell them that I was only going to be there a very short time. So I decided that I was not going to be with them at all, and was able to expedite the AT&T opportunity. So it all worked out, but I remember the stressful time, and I remember that quote. So I wish everyone a wonderful and blessed Truth Tuesday. I hope that you take some time, even if it's just 15 minutes, even if it's just 5 minutes, to yourself to really think about, what's important to you. And, are you happy? Are you working toward your happiness? Are you sharing your happiness, not to be responsible for others and their happiness, but just to share your happiness and your gratitude, because it's quite amazing just smiling at someone, a stranger, or opening a door, or just doing some kind of, some just random act of kindness. It matters, and so does your truth and how you feel and what you really want to do with your life, because as the wise taxi driver said to me, time waits for no one. So perhaps this is your time to really get clear on what it is you want and who matters to you. Let me know what your truth is, and let me know how let me know how you're going to make sure that you live your truth. Make that decision today. Once you realize what your truth is or what you really want, make that decision today. This can be the best year ever. Good night, everyone.